Subhuti was asked by the Buddha two very important questions. Has the Tathagata fulfilled anything? Meaning, has the Tathagata achieved enlightenment? Has the Tathagata accomplished all the enlightened qualities? So that's one question. Okay. The second question is, has the Tathagata taught anything? Subhuti answered, saying, as far as how he has understood the teaching, the way the Buddha has been teaching, as far as he is concerned, no, Buddha hasn't achieved or fulfilled anything. Similarly, Buddha hasn't taught anything. You must remind yourself, this is the sutra that does not require interpretation. One cannot find a greater sutra than this. This is the highest form of the sutra. All along, since yesterday, the quintessence of the Mahayana Buddhism, which is emptiness, that is taught. Just as in Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, and so forth. Here, it's much more explained, like there is no sentient being, an object of compassion. There is no object of generosity. Tathagata, the Buddha, does not have any bodily sign. This is very difficult to visualize. This is very difficult to contemplate on. When we read intellectually, maybe it does make a little bit of sense. But as soon as our emotion takes over our life, then this actually does not really make a sense. For instance, like if there's an earthquake now, or a fatal disease, we like to pray. We like to surrender to someone. We like to make offerings to someone. And for a Buddhist, usually it is for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So, when we make offerings, we like to believe that they receive the offerings. And when we look at the offering substance, we somehow make believe, we somehow assume, for instance, like when we make an offering of peach, fruits, like many shrines we see fruits. Surely, you must be indicating that Buddha has a mouth to eat the peach, a nose to smell the incense that you make offering with. And so, when we read the Vajrachetika Sutra, for instance, Buddha has no bodily sign. Forget ordinary nose or ordinary mouth, but even the extraordinary bodily sign, Buddha himself is saying that it does not exist. So, how does, for instance, if we have a disaster, like an earthquake or any kind of outer inner disasters, coming to our life. We are not a nihilist, we are not something like existentialist, who said, okay, that's life. We can't do anything about it. We can't do that. As a Buddhist, we can't do that. Because we are believer of interdependent reality. Every phenomena functions based on cause, condition and effect. This is what we believe. Everything is like cooking an egg. We know that if there is certain conditions to cook the egg will be cooked. So as a non-nihilist, as a sort of eternalist, somehow we have to do something. I mean, we are encouraged to do something. Not only avoid the disaster to myself, but we are supposed to work as a bodhisattva, we must do so that we can prevent the disasters to everyone, all sentient beings. Now, when you have heard the Vajracchedika teachings, and in it, Buddha himself said, there is no bodily science. Tathagata hasn't achieved any truly existing enlightened qualities. Tathagata hasn't taught any independently existing teachings. Okay, a small disaster such as maybe a certain temper, loss of a temper, you can understand that you can control with a shamatha, vipassana meditation and so forth. But an earthquake, we have no power to do anything. So our instinct is to pray to the Buddha so that, one will be free from these kind of disasters. So now how does this work? Okay, we have to pray because we can't do anything to the big disasters. So we have to surrender to someone who is mightier than us. But this mighty being does not even exist as a physical, as a mental, as an enlightened or as a non-enlightened. It does not exist. Buddha himself said that. So now we are stuck. So are we really stuck? Are we really stuck here? Definitely not, according to the Diamond Sutras. Because when you hear, contemplate and meditate on this signless Buddha, the Buddha is emptiness, emptiness is Buddha, that kind of extremeless Buddha. When we hear about it, when we contemplate on it, when we meditate upon it, especially meditate upon it, okay, that, what does that do? Dwelling on that wisdom is the most powerful way to cut or purify all the negative or the defilement or the habitual patterns that actually are the cause of outer, inner and secret disasters. So, this is how it works. So you can actually, let's say an earthquake come. You can recite the Diamond Sutra. You can contemplate on it. You can do several things. As a not that intelligent Buddhist, you can think Buddha actually is out there, as big as Mount Meru. And when the earthquake comes, Buddha is actually holding the whole Taiwan, so to speak, so that it does not move. Right? But that's not the most intelligent way. Actually, Subhuti will not be happy if you do that. He'll be happy only a little bit. The best way is not only hearing and contemplating, but meditating upon this signless, this Buddha that we have been hearing about. By doing so, it really eliminates all the defilement. And again, also the second question, when Subhuti asked, has Buddha taught? Buddha said, when Buddha asked, has Buddha taught? Subhuti said, no. You see, generally a teaching, a philosophy, a discourse, like has Confucius taught? Yes. What did he teach? He taught this. So there is a certain view and there is a certain conduct. Right? When Buddha asked, has Buddha taught? Subhuti said, no. What he is saying is, Buddha has no view. This is quite important. The Mahayana is actually a philosophy of non-philosophy. See, a view is a decision. It is a conclusion. Meaning there is a viewer, a subject. As long as there is a view, as long as there is a conclusion, then there is a reference. Tawa thamche pangwichir gotam tela chaksalo. It's the most special quality of the Buddha is not having the view, not having the, no view, the viewless view. Now, mind you, now don't keep on thinking that this, so, it's like, do whatever you want to do, isn't it? Sort of no view, no particular view, so should we do whatever we feel like doing? No. We are not talking like that. Because, first of all, it's easy to say, should we do whatever we feel like doing? It's easy to say that we should do whatever we feel like doing. It's very difficult to do whatever we feel like doing, because we are subject to many taboos and hang-ups. No one in this room, I don't think so, has the guts, has the courage to do whatever we want to do, because we have a certain hang-ups. There are many teachings that has a seemingly moral, maybe not a moral, like if you kill, like not to kill, not to steal, not to tell lies. All these teachings does exist in Buddhism. Buddhism does not deny that. In fact, a bodhisattva must practice those. Bodhisattva should not kill. Bodhisattva should not steal. Yeah? But bodhisattva should kill if it is benefiting sentient beings. Bodhisattva must lie if it is benefiting sentient beings. See, that's slightly better than just don't kill, don't steal. A bodhisattva must offer peach every day to the Buddha. Buddha does not have a mouth to eat. But Buddha is not also mouthless. See, the second and the third is much better. So, but why do we hear this, one must make offerings to the Buddha, one must make offerings to the Sanghas and all of that? Why we keep on having all these relative teachings? If you want to have the phenomena of waking up from a nightmare, if you want to have the experience of end of nightmare, then you have to have a nightmare first, isn't it? Let's say if you are having a nightmare of sleeping with an elephant in your small studio, several elephants, and you are so paranoid that you are so paranoid, which means you are caught by these elephants. There are two types of beings who have this kind of nightmare. There are some type of people who have such kind of nightmare, and then while they are having nightmare, someone comes and say, hey, look, it looks like this is your dream. How can all this elephant fit in your studio? And then this person gets it. And this kind of person will not need to adopt drastic sort of methods in order to chase away the elephants. Because this kind of person knows elephant does not exist, therefore you cannot make it cease to exist. Thus, the second type of the being who is dreaming doesn't know that, like someone comes and says, look, this is just your dream. Second type of a person can't hear this. And if you tell him a lot that this is just a dream, he might get annoyed with you. It's better almost to agree with him that this is not a dream. Let's chase them out. Let's do things. Let's make noise. Let's, make fire. Let's do all kinds of things to chase them out. That works with this kind of mentality. Most of us are second type of dreamer. That's why peace offering is important. Incense is important. They work. They really work. I can talk Diamond Sutra as if, I have understood this, but if a disaster, if an earthquake comes right now my first reaction will be praying to a bodily existing Buddha. And when the earthquake settles down, maybe, if I'm not too paranoid, then maybe we can think about Buddha of not having any signs and stuff like that. And there's a lot of merit out of that. Let me explain this signlessness a little bit more. Okay? And especially, today's first and the second question is quite important. In the Mahayana Buddhism, they talk about Jitongpa Ni Lam Tsenma Meba Debu Memba Meba. The ground is emptiness. Path has no characteristic. Result is beyond aspiration. Yeah? It's a Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism is a journey without a goal. It's like peeling off onion skin and thinking, but somehow along the path we think that there is a fruit inside, there's a solid seed inside. Only satisfaction if you want. Okay? First of all, maybe it's not necessary to have that, but if you do really insist on some kind of a satisfaction, then it is what we have is every time you peel off one layer of skin, then you can call it a satisfaction. But soon this satisfaction will be invaded by a disappointment of realizing that, the inner layer, that which you thought is a fruit, is actually another skin. I'm saying that disappointment is very important. Disappointment can be a sign of achievement. Finally, you realize there's nothing, no fruit, no seed inside all these layers of skin, and then you are at last released from strong expectation of the seed. This is really important for you to understand because, in Buddhism, when we talk about the result, the other religions, they talk about heavenly sort of, if you do good, then you will be born in a heaven where 64 virgin girls will wait for you and stuff like that, We do have similar. But ours is, instead of, like 64 virgin girls and all that, our goal is, academically speaking, it is a result of elimination. Okay, very simple language. Buddhists do not, Mahayana Buddhists especially, we are not trying to get something or construct something. We don't have to. We already have it. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to eliminate. The Buddhist path, the Mahayana path is eliminating path. You eliminate. You do not construct. I don't know how the Chinese translation works. In the word Buddha, Buddh, actually in Sanskrit it means awakened. Awaken is, awake means result of elimination. You eliminate sleeping. The very eliminating of sleeping is awakening. There is no such thing as you stop sleeping and then you start awaking. I always use this example, and I think it's quite good, which I will use here. Washing window. When we wash window, we have to eliminate the dirt. Okay? And then we can think, relatively speaking, we can think that we are constructing the clean window. Here, when we talk about the Buddhahood, we are not talking about the clean window. Of course, we are not talking about the dirty window. So we are talking about pre-dirt and clean window. A state that has never heard of dirt, therefore it has not experienced the cleanliness. It is because of that we hear words like Buddha has no sign, bodily sign and all that. Subhuti said, the teachings, the Dharma that the Tathagata has realized and spoken cannot be conceived as a separate entity. Now Buddha asked Subhuti about the merit. Well, he's going to begin. He asked Subhuti, if somebody fills the whole 3,000 universe with 7 different kinds of treasures and use it as an object of generosity and offer it to others, will this bring a lot of virtue and merit? Venerable Subhuti said, yes. And the reason, yes, it will bring a lot of virtue and merit. And the reason, that even the Tathagatas cannot measure such kind of virtue and merit. And then Buddha said, on the other hand, if there's someone who accepts, who receives these teachings, put them into practice, even maybe one stanza, one shloka, explains to the others and practice it, the happiness and the virtue that is brought by such kind of act of speaking this sutra is far beyond than the earlier act of generosity, giving 7 precious treasures. Why? Buddha said, Subhuti, because all the Buddhas of the past, the present, and the future, all their awakened mind comes from this single reality of emptiness. And such kind of a path is taught here. And this is why this is the highest and most fulfilled words or the teaching of the teaching. In this stanza, what we have to learn is 2 kinds of virtuous action. There's a virtuous actions which called sakche jigeva, the virtuous actions that has a residue. Virtuous action that has residue is interdependent. It is impermanent. It is a compounded phenomena. Compounded phenomena is impermanent. Therefore, offering 7 treasures, filling the 3,000 universe, it may be very, very, very big act of generosity, but it is still a compounded phenomena. It is still limited. It is still subject of impermanence. So it will exhaust. It will cease to exist. The virtuous actions that has no residue, such as contemplating, and the hearing and contemplation is still a bit of a virtuous of with a residue, but meditating and remaining, abiding on the emptiness, that has no residue. Therefore, it is inexhaustible. That's why it has far greater power of virtue. Now, Buddha is not denying the virtue of virtuous action that has residue. He's not. He's not discouraging that. He's just, identifying the difference. You will hear very soon. In fact, the virtuous actions that has residue, such as making offerings like jewels and all that, is very necessary so that one will be open to the virtuous actions that has no residue. It works like that. See, if I buy this flower with a certain amount of money and offer it, there is some form of a sacrifice, some form of a detachment. let's say I'm a very stingy, very greedy, I do not want to spend 1 cent, but I try so hard, I force myself to detach from this few cents and buy this. See, every time you practice the detachment, it opens your vessel so that you will understand the virtuous actions of no residue, such as emptiness. Yeah. First, it's very important to practice detachment. Then you will be able to hear that there is actually, in reality, in truth, there's nothing to be detached. Remember the elephant example that I was giving you? Okay, now Buddha is back again to the path. Generally, path is divided into 4 categories. This is a very Charvaka language. In the Mahayana, we talk about stages, like first bhumi to the 10th bhumis. In the common Buddhist teachings, we talk about the stream enterer, once returner, no returner, and then the foe or the enemy destroyer. The first question is, Subhuti, what do you think? Does a stream enterer think, I have now attained the fruit of stream enterer? Subhuti said, no. Why? Because stream enterer means entering the stream. But in reality, there is no stream to enter. Why there is no stream? Because there is no stream of form. There is no stream of sound, smell. There is no stream of taste, touch, object, mind. Remember, in the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. Likewise, a stream enterer, when he reaches to that state, he realizes form, feeling, sound, all of this does not exist as an independent entity. So since there is none of these streams, what is entering to stream? There is no such thing as entering to the stream. When the Bodhisattva realizes there is no stream to enter, that is entering to the stream. And it's so important because many of us think that bodhisattvas, like when they reach the first, second bhumi, many of us think, there is a certain ceremony of like a honorary sort of knighthood or sort of, like medal, or giving the medal ceremony, like today you have reached the first and I will now promote you to the second bodhisattvas. And I think people think like that. The human mind likes to think in a hierarchical sort of system. But in fact, when you know that all dharmas does not exist, therefore there is no stream to enter. When you realize that, that is the entry to the stream. Again Buddha asked, Subhuti, does a once a returner think, I have now attained the fruit of once returning? Again Subhuti said, no. Because once a returner means you go there and you come back just once. You go to nirvana and then you come back to samsara once. There is no nirvana to go. There is no samsara to come back. There is no going, there is no coming. So there is no one returning. There is nowhere to return. Nowhere. There is no samsara to return. When we realize that, when a bodhisattva realizes that, that is what we call once a returner. Again, this is a standard. It's a very profound point here. But remember, we were talking about cleaning the window. Cleaning the window glass. Yeah. See, the fact is this. Everybody loves cleaning the window. But no one really thinks about pre-dirt and pre-cleaning, which is a very important aspect of the window. When you bought that glass, glass on the window, it didn't come with a certain amount of dirt. What I'm saying is that you didn't pay for a certain amount of dirt. It's not in the package, isn't it? It's not in your bill. There's, certain amount of dirt you are paying for. That pre-dirt and pre-clean, that is what we are talking here. No samsara, no nirvana. See, by the time we talk about the samsara and the nirvana, we are talking at the secondary level. Most of the time, in our head, nirvana is the actually, nirvana is from, if you carefully think, nirvana in our head is sophisticated samsara. It's not really a nirvana. Actually, samsara is more sophisticated, which means it's worse. Again, Buddha asked, what do you think? Does non-returner, the bodhisattva who reaches even the higher state, the state of non-returner, think, now I have attained the fruit of non-returning? Again, Subhuti replied, no. There is no returning means there is no world to return. But in fact, there is no place to return to. Therefore, there is no returning. And when you realize there is nowhere to return, there is no returner, that is actually this state of non-returning. Okay, so we will have a break. When we come back, we will have a few more words and some question and answer.